Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Everyday Health Stories, the podcast where we explore the fascinating world of medical science through the power of storytelling. Each week, we bring you compelling science and simple strategies that can help you take control of your health, one step at a time. If this is your first time joining us, hit pause for a moment and click on follow or subscribe, depending on where you're listening. That way, you'll get notified of new episodes, gain access to exclusive content, and join a community that's making positive changes, one story at a time. Now, if you've been following along, we've spent the last couple of episodes basically sweating our way through the world of saunas, right?
Absolutely. We cranked up the heat and dove deep into how saunas can boost brain health, support your heart, and even ramp up your recovery game.
And honestly, I was surprised by how powerful regular heat exposure can be. But today, we're switching gears and temperatures.
Yep, we're going from sizzle to shiver. It's time to talk about the science behind cold exposure. And more importantly, what happens when you combine cold with heat in what's known as contrast therapy.
Okay, I've seen the videos. People jumping into ice baths, walking barefoot in the snow, even dunking themselves in barrels of freezing water. It all looks intense and slightly crazy, if I'm being honest.
Totally fair. But there's a method to the madness. What seems like self-inflicted torture actually has very real, very measurable health benefits, from increased metabolism to mood elevation, better circulation, and even improved insulin sensitivity.
All right, you've got my attention. So in today's episode, we're diving into what cold therapy actually does to your body, how pairing it with heat, like sauna sessions, can seriously amplify the benefits, and how to do it safely, even if the coldest thing you've got access to is your shower dial turned all the way to the left.
That's right. Whether you're an athlete, a biohacker, or just someone who wants more energy and better sleep, this episode is for you.
So grab your towel, maybe two, because by the end of this, you might actually want to try freezing yourself on purpose.
You know, Anna, it's funny. People hear cold therapy and immediately picture ice baths and shivering athletes. But this isn't just some extreme wellness fad. There's actually solid science behind it.
So you're saying there's more to it than just testing your pain tolerance?
Definitely. What we're talking about here is deliberate cold exposure, using controlled, short bursts of cold to activate the body's natural healing and performance systems. One of the most exciting things we've learned in recent years comes from a study by Dr. Susanna Soberg in Cell Reports Medicine. She found that just 11 minutes of cold exposure per week, broken into a few sessions, can trigger some really powerful health benefits.
Okay, that sounds doable. But what's actually happening in the body during those 11 minutes?
One of the main things you're activating is a special kind of fat called brown fat. It's very different from the fat we usually try to get rid of. Brown fat is dense with mitochondria, which means it burns energy to produce heat. So when you get cold, your body starts firing up this internal furnace to stay warm, and that boosts your metabolism.
Wait, so you're saying that just by getting cold, we can burn calories?
Yes, and there's more. That same cold exposure gives you a dopamine boost, about 2.5 times higher than your baseline, and that mental clarity and motivation can last for hours.
So this is like a double win. Boosted metabolism and an elevated mood?
Right. And let's not forget insulin sensitivity, fat oxidation, and even resilience training, because every time you get into cold water, when your brain is screaming to get out, and you stay calm, you're strengthening your nervous system. You're learning how to regulate your response to stress. That has huge spillover benefits into everyday life.
I love that. It's not just about physical health, it's mental training too. And I have to admit, I've started to hear from friends who've gotten into cold showers or ocean plunges, and they swear by how energized and clear-headed they feel afterward.
Absolutely. I've had patients tell me the same. Some even say it's better than their morning coffee. It's a very primal kind of reset. Hormonal, neurological, emotional, and it's free. You just need water and a bit of grit.
And maybe a warm towel waiting nearby.
Hey, that helps.
Okay, so 11 minutes per week sounds like a manageable goal. But let's get into the real question people are probably asking. How cold are we talking? Like, are we supposed to be plunging into icy lakes? Do we need special cryo chambers? Or can I just suffer through a cold shower?
Great question. And the answer is actually refreshingly simple. The key isn't a specific number on a thermometer. It's about getting uncomfortably cold, but still safe.
Uncomfortably cold. That's wonderfully vague and mildly terrifying.
It does sound a little vague, I know, but that's actually the beauty of it. What feels cold to you might not feel the same to someone else, and that's perfectly okay. It's not about hitting a specific number on the thermometer. What matters more is reaching that point where your body feels a strong urge to get out, but instead you stay in just a bit longer, staying calm and in control for a minute or two. That's where the real benefit kicks in.
So we're not talking cryo torture here, just that point where it makes you kind of want to curse a little.
Exactly. That might mean a 50 degrees Fahrenheit plunge for someone or a 60 degrees Fahrenheit shower for another. One study had people sitting in 60 degrees Fahrenheit water for 45 minutes. That's not even ice water, but they still saw metabolic benefits because of the prolonged exposure. The key is discomfort plus duration equals adaptation.
Okay, I can do discomfort, just not hypothermia.
Right. Safety first. Always. And start small. Maybe 30 seconds of cold water at the end of your shower. Then work your way up to a minute. Then 2. Ideally, you want to get to the point where you're doing 2 to 3 minutes, a few times a week. That's enough to unlock most of the benefits we talked about earlier.
And what about this whole shivering thing I've heard about? Does that mean it's working, or should I be worried?
Great observation. Shivering isn't just a side effect, it's actually a metabolic amplifier. When you shiver, your muscles release something called succinate, which further activates brown fat. So if you get out of the cold and you're lightly shivering, don't rush to towel off. Let the water evaporate off your skin. That extends the metabolic effect.
Okay, so let me get this straight. I take a cold shower, start to shiver a bit, and instead of running for a warm towel, I stand there like a popsicle and just air dry?
Pretty much. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's where a lot of the magic happens. Your body works hard to warm itself up, and that internal effort is what builds your metabolic resilience.
All right, so it's not about being a superhero, it's about consistency, control, and just the right level of discomfort.
Exactly. It's a low-tech, high-reward practice. No fancy gear needed, just a willingness to embrace the chill, one session at a time.
All right, so we've got the cold part down. But what happens when we mix it up with heat? This is where contrast therapy comes in, right?
Right. And this is where things get really interesting. Contrast therapy is all about alternating between heat and cold. Typically, sauna and a cold plunge or cold shower. And it's not just for relaxation, it's a physiological roller coaster for your body in the best way possible.
I've seen people doing that. Sauna, then ice bath, then back to the sauna. And they always say they feel amazing afterward. But what's actually going on in the body when you jump between hot and cold like that?
When you expose your body to heat, your blood vessels dilate, your heart rate increases, and you start to sweat. Your body is trying to cool itself. Then when you go cold, the opposite happens. Vasoconstriction. Your blood vessels tighten, your heart slows down a bit, and your body fights to keep your core warm.
So you're giving your circulation a workout?
Yes, you're improving vascular elasticity, your vessel's ability to expand and contract. That enhances blood flow, improves oxygen delivery to tissues, and supports detoxification. You're essentially training your cardiovascular system, much like a muscle.
Okay, that makes sense. But I know people will ask, should I start with heat or with cold?
You can start with either. There's no strict rule. But here's the key. If your goal is to boost metabolism, burn fat, or energize your system, always end on cold.
Got it. Cold to finish strong.
Yep, ending on cold triggers your body to reheat itself naturally, and that process, called rebound thermogenesis, burns calories and strengthens your body's ability to adapt to environmental stress. If you end with heat, your body just relaxes and cools down. Still good, but not the same metabolic benefit.
So walk us through what a typical contrast session might look like.
Here's a simple way to structure a contrast session. Start with about 15 to 20 minutes in a sauna, ideally heated between 180 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Then, step into a cold plunge or a cold shower for 2 to 3 minutes. After that, go back into the sauna for another 10 to 15 minutes and finish with one final round of cold. Just 1 to 2 minutes is enough. You can repeat this cycle 2 or 3 times, depending on how you're feeling and what your goals are. And here's a really important tip. Don't jump into a hot shower afterward. That warm blast actually cancels out the natural rewarming response your body is supposed to go through. Let your body do the work. That's where a lot of the benefits kick in.
So no sneaky warm towel cheat at the end?
Nope. Let yourself shiver a little. That's where the magic happens.
This is starting to sound less like a spa day and more like a boot camp for your nervous system.
That's a great way to put it. It's stress, but the right kind. controlled, short-term stress that builds resilience, improves circulation, and sharpens mental focus. Your body adapts, and over time, people don't just feel stronger physically, they feel more emotionally steady too.
I love that. It's not just about being healthier, it's about being harder to shake. Okay, so we've talked metabolism, mood, circulation, but what about hormones? I remember you mentioned something in the last episode about sauna increasing growth hormone, which I'll admit made my ears perk up.
Absolutely. And it's one of the most exciting aspects of heat therapy. A properly structured sauna session done just once per week can increase growth hormone levels by up to 16 times baseline. That's massive.
16 times? That's not a little nudge. That's like slamming the pedal to the floor.
That's right. But there's a catch. Those results came from a pretty intense protocol, 4 rounds of 30 minutes in the sauna, spaced with short cooling breaks, all done in a single day. It's not something most people would do every week, but even a simpler routine, like 2 20 to 30-minute sessions per week, can give your body a meaningful hormonal boost.
And for people who might not know, why is growth hormone such a big deal?
Growth hormone helps with tissue repair, muscle recovery, fat metabolism, cell regeneration, and even immune support. It's especially important as we age because our natural levels of growth hormones start to decline.
So sauna is a legit recovery tool, not just a luxury.
Oh, it's absolutely a recovery tool. Now, cold therapy plays a role here too, but with a twist. If you do cold exposure right after a workout, especially something intense like weightlifting, it can actually blunt muscle growth. That's because you're reducing inflammation too quickly before your muscles have a chance to adapt and grow.
Interesting. So cold exposure isn't always the right move?
Not right after strength training, no, unless your goal is rapid recovery, like getting ready for a race or competition the next day. In that case, cold therapy is great for reducing soreness and speeding up muscle recovery. But if you're trying to build strength or size, wait a few hours before jumping into the cold.
Good to know. So it all comes down to timing and intention.
Yes, if your goal is performance recovery, end with cold. If your goal is adaptation and growth, give your body some time before cooling it down.
All right, Dr. Reddy, we've covered a lot, from the science to the sweat to the shivers. But now I'm thinking about the folks listening who are probably wondering, okay, how do I actually start doing this?
Great question, because honestly, the biggest barrier is just getting started. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need an expensive spa membership or an ice bath in your backyard. You just need a plan, a bit of consistency, and the willingness to get a little uncomfortable.
Okay, so let's break it down. What's a realistic starting point for someone new to all this?
Here's a beginner-friendly approach. For cold therapy, start small. At the end of your regular shower, turn the water cold for just 30 seconds. You can build up over time. Shoot for 2 to 3 minutes, 3 times a week. That alone is enough to hit the 11-minute weekly target from the Soberg study.
That feels doable. Horrible, but doable.
It's all about the dose. As your tolerance builds, you might experiment with cold plunges or longer exposures, but you don't have to start there.
What about sauna? What should listeners aim for?
Ideally, you want to get about 57 minutes of sauna time per week. That could be broken up into 2 30-minute sessions or even 3 20-minute sessions. Just make sure the sauna reaches at least 180 degrees Fahrenheit. And remember, infrared saunas usually don't get hot enough, so traditional dry or wet saunas are best.
And if someone wants to do contrast therapy?
That's the fun part. You could try a basic cycle, 15 to 20 minutes in the sauna, 2 to 3 minutes in cold water, and repeat that once or twice. Always finish on cold if your goal is fat burning, circulation, or energy. If you're aiming for relaxation or better sleep, you can end with heat.
That's a great distinction. And I love that you can tailor it depending on your goals.
Yup, this isn't one size fits all. It's about using heat and cold as tools to support your specific needs, whether that's hormone health, energy, recovery, or just feeling more mentally resilient.
And it really makes the whole thing feel approachable. Start where you are, do what you can, and build from there.
You've got it.
So whether you're a seasoned athlete or just someone looking to feel stronger, more energized, or simply better in your own skin, contrast therapy might be the reset your body and brain have been craving. You don't need high-end equipment or hours of spare time. Sometimes all it takes is a cold shower and a bit of courage. And with that, we're wrapping up today's episode of Everyday Health Stories. If you found this episode helpful, take a moment to share it with someone who would benefit from this information. Whether it's a friend, a family member, or your favorite workout partner, Let's help more people take control of their health and longevity.
Thank you all for joining us. As always, this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not replace professional medical advice. If you're considering incorporating sauna therapy, cold exposure, or any other health intervention into your routine, or if you have any medical concerns, always consult with your healthcare provider to ensure it's safe and appropriate for you.
Absolutely. Until next time, stay healthy, stay curious, and keep listening to our podcast. Remember, every story has the power to transform lives. Bye for now.